I have for you, as always, a introduction, a small window to what are the different things you can do with technology. Now, as Dr. Watson mentioned, I have been doing sessions like this for AIU for a while now. So every time I get an opportunity, I bring in something new from technology, something which will help you to your career, something which will help you become a better programmer, and so on and so forth. Now, today, I am still in the technology stream, because that's what I do. I am a technology, a professional. I do everything in tech and programming specifically. Today, I have for you a library called as P5JS. Okay, that's the name. There's no short form or anything like that. The library is actually called P5JS. And as you can see here, this library is used for what is called as a generative art. Okay, so today's session is going to be slightly unusual when compared to the other sessions and future sessions as well. So today's session is kind of a combination. What I'll do is I'm going to just show you now, because we are doing Zoom, the animation may not be so clear, but hopefully you will get an idea. So there you go, my dear students. So that is what I'm talking about. Now, depending on the internet, it may be a little smooth, it may be not smooth at all. I'm not sure. But what you see on the screen right now is an example of generative art. So you have it right there on the screen right now. So what is happening is it is an animation of a art. It's like a painting. You can see here that you have some round colored circles. They're kind of floating around, but if you see in the back, as they're floating around, they're kind of painting the canvas. So as they move, they change the color and they come back and they keep changing. So it's almost like they're being painted on a piece of paper or a canvas. So this is what this is an example of what we can do with generative art. And what I'll do here is I of course have example code here. So normally I share this at the end of the workshop, but today what I'll do is I'll put this thing immediately, just in case you want to see what I'm talking about. So I'm sending you a link here. I'm sure Professor Walson will share it with you guys as well. So there you go. Now check that link out on your computer. And what you have to do is just scroll down, and right there on the top, you'll see that I have another piece of like an art that I was able to generate using coding. Okay, so whatever you see here, it's looked like it was done using some painting software or something like that. However, all this was being generated using coding and mathematics. So whenever you are able to, that is the question really, isn't it? So when I ask the question, what is generative art? So, art is anything you consider art. For example, whenever I am bored or something, I will do sketches, I do, some illustrations and stuff like that. Now, for me, that is art. So I use I have this Apple Pencil, I have my tablet, I sit down and do some sketches and things like that. Now, that is something I'm doing with my hand, using my eye and, digital paint and stuff like that. However, now that is art. Yes, so you create a painting, you create a portrait or something like that. But when you're able to generate something similar to a painting or an expression or something like that using programming code, now that is what we call generative art. Now the word generative, it has many meanings, but here in this context, we are talking about generating, like a generator that generates electricity when you have a power cut or something. So we are talking about generating art using coding. So that is why it is called generative art. So that's what we are going to talk about today. So if you go back to that link I sent you, hopefully you're able to open it. And you know what, that link, you can just copy to your mobile phone. Also, it will work just fine. So you can still keep looking at me and also look at that link. So you can go to any one of these things. Now I have many generative art animations on my website. For example, look at this one. Let me open this. This one is called Moon and Earth. So if you go to this one, you'll see here that on the screen, imagine at the center is like a Earth, like a planet. and surrounding that, you have like satellites, like the moon and stuff like that. So the satellites, they are attracted to the planet, and then they're trying to circle around the planet. And the interesting thing here is, if I go ahead and move this Earth a little bit using my mouse, you'll see that now the satellites, because they are attracted to the planet, they try to follow the main planet as they go. So this is one of the many things we can do with generative art. So there you go, my dear students. So this is what I am talking about. And I'm kind of, whenever I do a workshop or a session on JavaScript, now please understand, ultimately everything I do will have some relationship to programming and software development. So what we are seeing here is we are able to generate these things using JavaScript. So that is what makes this really, really kind of interesting. Now, add a little bit of color to your programming, learning, and so on. So anyway, so that link is already there. So I'll send this link also if you want to check it out on your mobile phone or something. I put that in the chat as well. So you can try opening it on your phone also while you're watching the presentation. And there are many such animations available in this entire website, a lot of them. So you can check all of them out, see which one you like and so on. And before the presentation is over, I will explain to you, if you want to try this and if you want to look at the code for these things, how can you get the code? So I'll be explaining that as well as just before the end of the workshop. So that is what we call generative art, wherein you are able to generate a visual, like art using programming, right? So then the next question is, see, whatever you want to do in software development, a lot of times you need a library, okay? Now, those of you who are coming back, who have already seen my other workshop videos, maybe live or recorded on the YouTube channel, you'll remember that I always mention that, okay, to start your journey in programming and development, you need to go ahead and start with the basics: JavaScript, HTML, CSS, yeah, those three things. But once you learn these basic things, you have to eventually go ahead and learn a library. For beginners, for really truly beginners, I always say, go ahead, pick up Bootstrap as the first library that you have to learn. But once you have learned Bootstrap, then I'll tell you, okay, once you're done with Bootstrap, you have got some practice, then you have to choose a modern framework like React.js. Okay, that's something I always recommend, because that's what I use in my client projects. Other than that, you also have other frameworks like Vue.js and AngularJS and so on and so forth. So you have many such frameworks or libraries that you use to get somewhere with your JavaScript learning. So if we are trying to do generative art, then the best library, just like, in programming, the thing is, to do the same thing, you always have multiple libraries. So when it comes to generative art, there are many ways you can do generative art. But my personal recommendation, and also the only library I know for doing generative art, is a library called P5.js. So those of you who are making notes, I hope you are. I always tell my students, when you're attending a workshop, make sure you have a pen, a pencil, or a notebook, and jot down whatever is coming, because I'm telling you, you can make notes on your computer and all, but I always feel there's something cool about having a pen and paper when you're taking notes. So those of you who are making notes, what you should be looking out for is a library called P5.js. And let me go ahead and show you one more thing. So P5.js, as you can see here, is a library. You have the website here. I'm going to put this link in the chat box. I really hope you will check this out after the workshop. There we go. And for those of you who want to go a little bit deeper about the history of generative art, there is another website I want to tell you, and that is called processing. Okay, so there are two things you are looking for. One is you have P5.js, which is a library that works with JavaScript. However, for those who are becoming curious, okay, Dr. Watson, I think some of the students might have microphone on. So if you want to mute all of them, so Professor. I can hear a child.
I've done that.
Professor, I'm back. I'm back. Okay, I'm back.
All right.
Okay, yeah. There was one person who was unmuted. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we are back. Yeah. Okay. So coming back, what I was saying is, for those of you who are kind of intrigued or interested in this, your first stop should be the P5JS website. And some of you may already be learning Java. Those of you who are students, especially in a college or university, then obviously you would be learning Java as well. And you can see here, this is a very old library.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, I would very humbly ask you to turn your...
Professor, I've gone ahead and muted everyone. No problem. I'll do that.
Okay. All right. Are you back on, Jay? We still have the presentation of our expert, Baka Ali Radhakrishnan, Vijayasimha on the screen, but the audio seems to be gone. Are you there with us?
Professor, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
You have to make this also a co-host, Professor. So you have done me co-host. There are two Vijayasimhas. So make the second one co-host as well, please.
Okay, give me just 1 second. I'm losing the feed, the video feed to the co-host. How is it now on your end?
There you go, Professor. There you go. We are back in action. Okay.
All right.
I can't see you though, Professor. You have to turn on your video as well. Yeah.
Okay, my video is back on.
There you go, Professor. All right, and I think it's done, Professor. What happens is there was an option where everybody could turn on their microphone, so we can't blame anyone here. So we fixed that.
Yes.
Sorry about the interruption, guys. Our mistake. Okay, all right, okay. Now let's get back on the horse here. So there you go. So those of you who are curious about this, your first stop should be P5JS. I put the link there in the chat, and then those of you who already have some knowledge in Java, now please understand, Java and JavaScript are two separate programming languages. You may want to go ahead and visit the processing website as well. And you'll notice here that this is a really old library. It's like 20 plus years of, so this is used in a lot of visual programming and interfaces and so on. So it has a very big history. So give it a try. Both the links are in the chat. So go ahead and give it a visit after the call. So there you go. That is what P5JS is, just like React.js, Bootstrap, Vue.js, and all those other libraries I've spoken about in the previous classes. The P5JS library is also a library which can be used to do generative art. So that's what you're going to learn. So what do you need then? So the next question is, if you want to give this a shot, I believe anybody who's attending these workshops, they are attending to learn new things, try to see what technologies are available. And then maybe if you're curious, you watch the video, look at the links. And at the end of the session, I always share my contact details. So those of you who are interested, you can get in touch with me and ask questions and stuff like that. So then the next question is, if you find this interesting or just a casual interest because it's art, so what should you know before you can try this? So the first thing is, this one be a little bit tricky for a lot of people. You must know some amount of mathematics. I know some people are like, oh, math, I'm out of here. I understand, but you're an engineer student, you're going to be a programmer, you need to know some amount of mathematics. Like growing up, when I was in college, I would get like C plus in mathematics. I'm sure I shouldn't say that in a recorded session, but it doesn't matter. I was bad in math, but that's okay. But I was very good in the basics of math. Okay. So a lot of times people ask, like, hey man, if you want to be a programmer, should I be good in math? The answer is you should be. The better you are at math, the better you are at solving problems. So the better you are at solving problems, the better you will be at becoming a developer, because ultimately a developer's job is all about solving problems. That's what we do. Every time we build software, every day, every week, we are solving a problem. So math is ultimately about solving things. So if you're good at math, well, I'm happy for you. However, you should still have some basic math knowledge. So that is what is going to happen with here. So if you want to try, this generative art and give it a try, try to do these things that I've been showing for the last few minutes, then you should definitely try and go back and study some math. Now, if you already have some basic math knowledge, that's great. If you don't have it, then I'm sorry, everything has a price attached to it. Here, the price is you need to know math. So that's the first thing. So to do generative art, get some basics about math. Now, I'm not talking about like advanced university mathematics. If you're good at high school or even primary school math, that is more than enough. At least that much everyone should know. Okay, all right then. What is the second thing you need to start doing generative art? Now, obviously, guys, come on, I'm a technology person. Every workshop of mine is about software development. So to do this generative art, you must have JavaScript knowledge. Now here, I'm sorry, in the previous slide I showed you, you have like high school math, primary school math, that is more than enough, definitely. But for JavaScript, you must be at least experienced JavaScript developer. So I don't recommend P5.js for complete beginners. So I really don't recommend it. I mean, you can try, nothing is stopping anybody from trying for the first time. But if you want to jump into generative art, then it is recommended that you have already spent maybe a year or two in working on JavaScript. It could be front end, it could be back end, whatever it is. Or even if you're learning new JavaScript right now, then wait till you have enough experience before you jump into P5.js. Now that is a bit of a like a gate thing, right? It's a wall that you have to jump over or cross through. I get it, but again, I'll talk about how and where I use generative art, so you'll understand why there is so much complexity involved. So there you go. These are the two things you need to know to be able to do generative art. And obviously, this is something, it's more of an emotional thing, like a dramatic thing. You must have some kind of inclination to be creative. Okay, and it's right there in the title. It is generative art. So you must be artistically inclined. I'm not saying you should be some kind of a dancer or a singer or an advanced painter. If you're all those things, then that's very good. It will help you here. But at least should have some natural curiosity towards art, because whatever you're building here, what are we trying to do here? Like, for example, before I sit down and do a sketch or something like that, I'll have some idea about what I want to sketch. Only then can I sit down and do it. So similarly, before we sit down and create some kind of a generative art, you need to have that idea about what you're going to try and build. So some amount of natural tendency towards creativity is essential. So those of you who want to jump into generative art, make sure you have your math knowledge in place. Make sure you have some experience in JavaScript, and of course, you should have some creative tendencies. Now, how would you go about acquiring these skills? So, there are many ways you can do it. I'm going to share some tips about that. But before I continue, Professor Walson, any questions, anything you want to say, sir? I'm going to drink water, go silent for a minute here.
I'm doing just fine, Jay. Thank you very much. I am following you up close, and I do understand to do generative art, you must have some knowledge of math. I personally recall that I've never been good at math. Of course, I know how to do addition, subtraction, and basic things like that, equations, and so forth and so on. But when it comes to coding, I am not comfortable at all. So I do rely on you on the tips, the hints that you are ready to share with us in order
Yes.
for both myself and the attendees to increase their knowledge of coding techniques.
Okay, excellent, excellent, Professor Watson. Guys, as Professor Watson remarked, also I want those of you who are watching to know that I only meet Professor Watson during the presentation. So please don't think that we are rehearsing our questions. All our interactions are dynamic; they happen live. So there you go. Right then. So if you don't have these things, some general tips on how you can go about acquiring them. So one thing is, now when I got my start, I use P5JS professionally. So any workshop I do here are all the things with which I am already making some money. So whatever I'm teaching in all my videos, they will eventually help you to make some money as well. So unless something can help you make money, I'll probably not talk about it. So there is some professional commercial value to everything I'm speaking about. So when I was introduced to generative art, it was in the middle of the pandemic in 2021. I was looking at ways, I was already a tutor and everything. I've been teaching. And what I found out was there were some students who were trying to get into coding, but they were not what do you call conventional students, like especially, youngsters, and also a lot of times female students, they were not able to kind of embrace the standard projects that we build. And then also adult students, like people who are already working and things like that. So I was able to kind of use P5JS as a way to encourage them to apply their programming language. So for me personally, P5JS is almost like, how you, after learning JavaScript, you try to apply your knowledge by building a web app or a backend app and things like that. Then same thing here. So for me professionally, P5JS has helped me cater to specific students, especially adult students, younger students, like 10-year-old, 10 to 15 years old. And of course, a lot of female students, they prefer the interactivity and creativity thing. So I was able to use them there. Now, the problem here is many of them had already forgotten math or they are new to math. So what do you do about that? Well, guys, you should do what I did. You know what I did? I went back, I went online, I literally purchased, the textbooks that I used to study back when I was 10 years old. So I bought all the textbooks of age 10 to age 15. So imagine that, like I am now in my early 40s. So 3 years ago, I was like late 30s. So I am sitting there with some textbooks for children. They have these cute people, baby drawings and all that. So I am taking them like a stack of all of them from age 10 to age 15, just putting it there on my desk with lots of white sheets. I don't know if you guys know this, when you're practicing mathematics, you want to have those white sheets. I kept them. I kept the book. Obviously, I have above average intelligence, so I was able to finish the whole textbook in like a week. So I went through 5 years worth of mathematics in 1 week. So I studied them when I was young, so I was able to go through them really fast. So that's how I became good in math. So if you are serious about this, if you feel this is something which is interesting, so go ahead, whichever school you studied, whichever country you are, go back to your childhood, buy the books from, age 10 to age 15, get a huge stack of writing paper, sit down and just power through all 5 years of mathematics. That's it. High school math, primary school math, that is all you need. And after that, now obviously JavaScript, I've been mentioning this many, many times. So, once you get your mathematics in place, the next thing for you to learn JavaScript, my favorite website is, of course, this website called Free Code Camp. I mentioned this in almost every one of my workshops. You go here and they have a long list of courses online. And the second one, JavaScript, this is what I'm talking about. I'm putting that link here in the chat box as well. So there you go, guys. So if you are trying to learn, P5JS, you need two things, mathematics and JavaScript. So that is the easiest way for you to pick up some math skills and also JavaScript skills. And finally, creative tendencies, I believe in my heart that every person has some kind of inclination to creativity. So really, just let it come out, just let it come out. Even if you haven't done any art things in your life, this is a great way to learn new things as well. This is not for everyone though. I'll tell you this much. This is not for everyone because it takes a lot of effort like any other art. Sometimes, like this one I keep showing all the time. This one took me like 2-3 days to make it work properly. And I'm an experienced developer with 10 to 20 years of programming experience. So please understand, none of this is going to be easy. So you might think that anybody who can do this is kind of like an advanced developer. And that is the interesting thing, isn't it? I always tell people, like if you are really an experienced developer, the main thing you need to do is your GitHub account should be filled up. Okay, so whenever you apply for a job or something, you give them your GitHub account. Now, I'm trying to praise myself. So you can see here, I have all these achievements. I'm part of organizations. I have so many badges. Look at all these green dots, guys. That's all the things I have done for so many years. So anytime anybody comes to my account, they know I am the real deal. Okay, so if you're able to do stuff like this, that is the ultimate proof that you are a master. Okay, so even if you don't make any money by doing generative art, just being able to do it, it means that you are a good programmer. And I'm telling you, when you apply for job and all, how you present yourself, what is the impression you give to your employers is what really matters. Okay, so when you talk to them, they must know that, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. So P5JS can help in that way as well. But anyway, that's a story for another day, how to prepare for your job and all. So that's for some other time. So anyway, so coming back, my dear students. So this is an advanced library. This is an advanced task. Not everybody can do it. But if you are looking for a challenge, then this can be the challenge you are looking for. Now, the next thing what I want to do is I want to speak to you about where do we use this, okay? Now, I've been using this library for almost 2 to 3 years, and I work, as always, with clients from all over the world, okay? So if you end up learning this, these are the kind of industries, these are the kind of clients that may become your clients as well. And I want to point out this one thing though, because this is so difficult, creativity, mathematics, and coding. It is kind of a very difficult combination because a person might be good in programming, they may have some mathematical knowledge, but they may not be very creative. Or another person might be good in creativity, some amount of programming skills, but maybe not good in mathematics. So it is very hard to find people or developers or talent which has a mix of these three things. And which is why any kind of work in generative art is very, very lucrative. It pays really, really well. So yeah, it is challenging. It's not for everyone, but if you can kind of crack it, then I'm telling you from experience, it pays you really, really well. So who uses them? Who uses generative art? So the first type of person who uses this are what is called as art installations. So I don't know, Professor Watson, sir, when I say art installation, does that ring any bell for you, sir? If you know already, is there any way you can tell the students than me? I mean, I'll also mention, of course, if you don't know what they are, but if you know, perhaps you can tell from your experience in America. You may have visited art installations.
Personally, no, I'm not knowledgeable.
Oh, but you know about them. Oh, okay. Then I'll mention. Okay. So, guys, in India we don't have that too much, and I told you guys already. We are still a developing nation and stuff like that. But all of my clients obviously come from America. So what these guys do is, they have these. These are all artists. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, there are artists, like there are painters, there are singers, there are musicians and stuff like that. But art installations are these artists who are thinking of giving like a experience-based art. Okay, I'll tell you this one thing. Now, this one example, for example, here, what this person tried to do with this one is he made me build like a solar system animation using P5JS, and then they would use like 4 projectors, like a projector like you use in the university. So this guy, what he did was he took the code that I built for him, and then he would set up 4. Let me try to draw a drawing here. So let me go here on the screen. So what he did was he had 4 walls. So you have 1 wall here, like a room, like a room. So you have 4 walls, and then somewhere you'll have an entrance, obviously, but he would put like a curtain where you're entering. So once you enter, what happens is he had like, let me take another color here. He had like a projector, okay? So 4 projectors on 4 different directions like this. And then on all 4 walls, he would project a solar system in the night sky. So a solar system, which would look something like this, but like a blue background or a black background or something. And then what he was able to do is, because it is generative art, as the visitors were walking around, depending on their movement or outside weather or temperature, the animation would become darker or slower and the music would change accordingly. It's like a live artistic experience. So this is an example of art installation. So this happens a lot. Many of the clients I work for P5JS, they're usually people who are trying to do stuff like this. Some of them use it to show like nature, like climate change and stuff like that. Other times I've seen movie directors and musicians try to use these animations to go along with their abstract expression and things like that. So again, like I said, it's kind of a niche. It's not really for everybody, but these are standard places, art installations and things like that, where normally P5JS is used. So and the best part about this is, I mentioned before that there is the original library called processing, but the problem is processing is only runs on Java. Okay, which means you can't run it on your mobile phone, you can't easily run it on your tablet or computer and things like that. So you have to have specialized software to run whatever generative art that you create in processing. But the good thing about P5JS is, because it is JavaScript, it can run on all types of devices because it is JavaScript. JavaScript runs on everything from TVs to consoles to computers, mobile phones, whatever you have. So it's very easy and portable. And of course, there are a lot of JavaScript developers out there. So that is why P5JS is kind of like slightly more useful when it comes to such kind of applications. Now, the next thing is another reason to use where P5JS is used, as I mentioned already, is as a learning tool. Okay, a lot of times what happens is, the thing about programming is, like when we were younger, like in college or something, I had my friends who were in electrical engineering. I had my friends who were in electronics engineering. I had my friends who were in polymer science, like people who make chair and stuff like that. So every semester, they would show what they are doing. Okay, I had a friend. I still remember this one time. Do you guys know what a hovercraft is? Professor Walson, sir, do you know what a hovercraft is?
No, I don't.
Then let me see if I can get a photo on the screen. 1 second, guys. One second. I'm gonna try to get a yeah. There we go. So okay, all right. Professor Watson, are you able to see the image on the screen, sir?
Yes.
So, Professor Watson, see, a hovercraft is like a vehicle. It's not a ship. It's like a vehicle, Professor. What it does is, it is able to travel on both water and land.
Wow.
Because it doesn't have wheels, Professor. It's like floating on air. So that is why it's able to go from water to land and from land to water. Now, the reason why I mentioned that, Professor, is because I still remember when I was in school, The students from mechanical engineering, they built a hovercraft as their final year project. So it was a big thing, professors, like bigger, it was like as big as 3 to 4 cars. So they built it, my seniors, my college seniors, they were able to build it, and it was a huge deal. And from what I understand, most of them ended up joining the Indian Army to make such vehicles for the government. So it was pretty cool and so on. The reason why I'm mentioning that is in every other department, guys, whether it's electronics engineering, electrical engineering, or mechanical engineering, where people were able to do, every semester they would come and show us what they did. But the problem with software is they can't see what we are building. We learn programming, we learn this, we learn that. By the time we start building things, we are already in our final year engineering, and nobody's there to see what we are building. And a lot of times you don't even have time for that also. So this is the problem with software, isn't it? Like my mom will always say, Jay, what do you do for a living? And she has no idea because I can't show it. If I show her software, she's like, oh, what happens? I can't see anything. It's just code. And then she gets disappointed. I mean, not like disappointed. After all, she's my mom, but she can't see and experience what I do as an engineer. Okay. So one reason why I like P5JS is whenever I have some students who are like, sir, I'm learning programming, but I want to see it. I want to show it to someone that I'm doing something. So whenever you have a scenario like that, like you are learning programming, but you want to learn it visually, okay, with a more hands-on approach and things like that, then that is another situation where P5JS is very, very useful. So if some of you, I don't think all of you want to become teachers or tutors. I can be honest, being a teacher is very boring. I get that, okay? But if some of you are trying to be, it can be fun. I think it's fun. I'll enjoy it. So if some of you are trying to become teachers, trying to become tutors, okay, it is boring. I don't deny it, but I'll tell you something. We have a lot of fun. We travel a lot. We get to meet a lot of people, and we get to learn a lot of things. And the money is not bad. What do you say, Professor Walson? Being a teacher is okay, I think.
I fully agree with you, Jay. I've done teaching for over 40 years, and it's really very boring. And the pay, like you just stated, is not very good either.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not saying we are super rich, but it is a good living. And the best part is, wherever you go in the world, you get a lot of respect if you're a teacher, professor. Everywhere I travel, even though I'm a private tutor, I tell people I work as a tutor, immediately people are like, wow, okay, like a lot of respect and stuff like that. So anyway, that's the story for another day. So what I'm trying to say, my dear students, is if some of you are trying to become teachers, some of you are trying to become tutors, there are many ways you can teach programming. But what if you have students who want something visual, something they can see with their eyes? Because when you see something, you believe it. Like for example, you have the James Cameron movies, Avatar and Avatar Part 2. The story is not that great. Some guy goes here to the jungle and he thinks jungle is better than cities. So that's the story. That's it. There's no story there. It's a very simple story. But why do people like the movies so much? Because they go there, they put on the 3D glasses and they get lost. They see the jungle, the animals, the ocean, the whale, and they get excited. They don't care. The story is so boring. It doesn't matter. You're there for the experience and you watch it again and again and again. You don't care about the story at all. You don't care the story is stupid because the visuals are so amazing. So as a teacher, for me, whenever I see a student or a special needs student, you have to understand, guys, in the whole world, if you look at things, maybe 30–40% students are like normal. Everybody else has some kind of a disability or a special need and things like that. We can't ignore them. All right. So whenever I see a student who is finding it difficult to learn the normal way, as a teacher, I tell them, you know what? I have this library. It's called P5JS. Why don't we use that? So you're not just coding things, you're also seeing things. And that usually helps them learn a little bit better. Okay, so that is another reason why I would request you guys to give it a try with P5JS, especially if you're a tutor, especially if you're a teacher. I am telling you, if you're in the business of teaching programming, or you're teaching children, okay, who react better to interactive way of learning, then I can definitely vouch for the utility of P5JS. Now, before I go to the next part, I only have 15 minutes. Dr. Watson, if you have any thoughts on this, sir, I would like to hear it and then continue. And of course, I'll drink some water.
Yeah, you may drink water because your presentation is very entertaining for people who are in the field of teaching, tutoring, like you just said, or if you're just very curious about modern technologies, and it's very entertaining to me. And
thank you, Dr. Watson. Because you're also a teacher, sir, I think you're able to relate to what I'm trying to say. Like I get excited with this because a lot of children, especially, I show them this. I'm able to, especially in India, Professor. I can't speak for developed nations, but in India, especially, there are very few women coders. So I'm able to introduce a lot of female developers into coding, especially young, like parents and all. They're able to get interested because they can see it. It's more colorful. It seems to help them learn better and so on. So anyway, continuing, Professor Watson. So obviously, guys, the last reason to do this is for fun. Now, I know this is not something which everyone wants to do. The moment you think about university, everybody's serious, right? Once you join a university, from day one, you are constantly thinking about finishing the graduation and then applying for a job, getting a job, and then of course moving to the city or something, finding a place to stay and things like that. So life is complex as it is, and a lot of times you might just forget to have fun. Okay, now maybe it's just me, or maybe other people feel that way, but now I'm in my early 40s. Professor Watson obviously is older than me, but he still seems like a chill guy, so I like that. So when you get older, like you have a little bit more free time because the career is established, whatever debt you have, it's over. You're growing old, you have good friends, life is good, and you have more time. And of course, this is also a good age to be a teacher and tutor. So there you go. So if you are someone who's been doing coding for a while, then P5JS is a good way where you can have some kind of interactive fun without losing sight of your main work. So if you're already a JavaScript developer, or if you're already a programmer, then this is a fun way to apply your programming language. For example, you're coding, and suddenly you have some visitors. It's summer vacation or something, and you have kids coming into your house to see you as an uncle or aunt or something. That happens to me a lot. And every time they come, they're like, "Oh, Jay uncle, what are you building? What are you doing all day in front of the computer?" And I'm like, "Come here, kids. I'm gonna teach you programming." And I start opening up P5JS, and they're like, "Oh, what is this? What is that color?" And you saw, right? I mean, when you look at P5JS, it's very interactive. For example, here I can take this earth and I can start moving it. And another one I can show you is, which I really like, is, hold on one second. There it is. So this one is like, you can see here the ball is falling, and that's the water. So once the balls go to the water, they stop bouncing because the gravity of the water is making it softer. So what I do is, whenever summer vacations and kids are there, I don't want to just hang out with them because I'm a teacher. I can't stop teaching them. I make them sit in front of me and I make them code some small lines. So maybe the ball will go faster or slower or change the color. There are so many ways you can have fun. Okay, just because you're a programmer, people, when they think of software development, they're like, "Oh, this is so boring. It's such a boring job." It is a boring job. All jobs are boring, but it doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of fun without losing your focus on what you do for a living. I'm telling you guys, those of you who are still in university, I don't want to lie to you. Work life is not that exciting. It's just work. It is what it is. But it doesn't mean you can't have some fun in your free time without actually losing focus. And as I told you, you do these things, you apply for your next job or a promotion or something, they know you know what you're talking about. You have math knowledge, you have coding knowledge, and you're a little bit creative. That is a very good combination in a software developer. So these are the applications of P5JS. Okay, one, I had a lot of customers, a lot of clients who are artistic people. They work in art. They want to use software in their professional life. So they are the ones who I usually work with. Second, obviously, I use it to teach students. Okay, so sometimes some students, they want a little bit more interactive. I apply P5JS in those scenarios. Now, all these are commercial scenarios. Now where I'm actually just doing it for fun. I mean, I am having fun, but at the same time, I have bills to pay, so I got to make money. So there you go. That's another way to do that. And finally, of course, you use P5JS, have fun, maybe at home or something, or you have some kids, you want to introduce programming. That's another way to do it. And I'll tell you one more thing, that this is kind of, I don't know if this is relevant, but see, one thing you understand is, especially in developed nations, you'll notice that whenever children are involved, people, they go ahead and introduce, I'm sure Professor Walson may be able to recognize. Professor Walson, do you know about Minecraft, Professor? I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing. I'm sure you've seen this, Professor.
Yes, very well.
There you go, guys. So this is the thing, right? Like, for example, in Western countries, developed countries, the schools, the government, they have lots of money and they are able to provide Minecraft for students and everything. But what about countries like us? Our schools can't afford Minecraft license. Our schools can't even afford tablets or mobile phones that can run Minecraft in the first place. So that is one of the reasons where I am a huge fan of P5JS, because P5JS is a free library, and you're sure it doesn't look as cool as Minecraft. I mean, I play Minecraft. I'm a gamer. I have PlayStation 5, Xbox. I have gaming PC. I have all those things because I can afford it. Thank God for that. But most people cannot. So what about children in developed nations? Poor students and stuff like that. And if you are a tutor, if you're a teacher in such scenarios, then P5JS can really, really help you introduce programming to younger students. Okay, so those are the applications of P5JS. Now, before I wrap up and take any questions, I promised that I will show you, if you want to experiment with these things, you want to experiment with the code that I showed you today, how will you go about it? So let me go ahead and do that. While I'm doing it, Professor Walson, if you have any questions, please collect them, Professor. So I'm going to take a few minutes to show any students who are interested how to look at the code. Okay, so let's say if you want to do something like this, for example, here, I made this art, right? It looks like a painting, I like this. So what if you want to do something like this? So where is the code? How do you practice? So let me explain that. So first step, I'm going to share this link again. So there you go. You can check that in the chat. I hope now, guys, please remember, once the Zoom session is over, the chat is gone. So if you want this link, you have to take it right now. Okay. You can also go to my account and you'll see right there in the top, hold on. There is a section called P5JS for students. So if you're not able to look at the link because the video is recorded or something, then make sure you go to my account. And then on the top right corner, this is always there. It's permanently fixed. Just go there and open this one, okay? Now, once you open this one, I'll put this link also in the chat. For those of you who are taking notes, okay, once you go to my account and go to this one, you'll see that every art that I have made sure that I have put it in a separate folder. So let me just show you how that works, because this is a common question every time I do a session on P5JS. The first question is, I'm not saying everybody gets interested, but those of you who get interested, they are like, Jay, I can see the animation, I can see the art, but I don't know how to find the code. So that is why I always answer this question at the end of the workshop. So there you go. So you go to my repository, P5JS for students, and then go to my website. Okay, the website is here. You see here? Whatever link I put it, it's right there on the GitHub as well. So you don't have to find it or copy paste it. Just go there, it's there already. So open that. And then on the right side, you'll scroll down, you'll see that whatever I am doing here, has a folder. So let me take my marker. You see this? Start a project. Dr. Watson, let me know if you can follow me, sir. You'll see that I have a folder called Starter Projects. Do you see the connection there, Dr. Watson?
Yes.
So I have made sure that everything is organized, my dear students. So if you want to look at starter projects, then all you have to do is go to the folder called starter projects. If you're looking at the animation under 0, there it is. You have a folder called 0. Same thing, same thing. So I know one thing I like, guys, maybe it's because I'm old. I'm very organized. Whatever I do it in a nice, organized way. I know it sounds boring, but I am a teacher. So there you go. So like this, anything you want, everything is in a folder. So you have a animation called 4. So that's going to be, hold on. Oh, sorry. So that's going to be in a folder called 4. There it is. So every item is properly indexed and it is properly linked. So just to give you an example, so let's say after this workshop, some of you want to try this what is that earth thing? Okay, so let's say you want to try this out at your home or on your computer. So what you do is you'll go to my website. Now, where is the earth thing? The earth thing is here, part 2. So you go on the left side, go to chapter 2, and you will have a folder called Moon and Earth. There it is, see, the same title. So you go to Moon and Earth, you go to the Moon and Earth, and you will get the code, everything here. Okay, there are a lot of files. I told you already, this is complex, not for everyone, but if you're an experienced developer, you will see what I'm talking about. And just to scare you a little bit, I'll open one of the files and look at all that mathematics. Look at that, mass, vectors, forces, gravity, this, that. It's very, very complex, but it's only complex because you're looking at it from the outside. It's like when you're solving a puzzle, everything looks so crazy, but once you solve it, you're like, it's so easy. Same thing here. When you're looking at it from outside, you're like, oh, that's physics, man, that is math. Oh, this is too complex. But my friends, patience is its own reward. So you study things very patiently and you will get there. And I told you already, there are very few people in the world who can do this. And I have made a lot of money with this, professor. So I'm very happy I learned this. So there you go, guys. That is your motivation to give this a shot. So if you're a beginner developer or you're already an experienced developer, or you want to put in your resume one more thing, in your resume, the more things you have, the more are the chances you will get a job. All right. So I'm not trying to brag or something, but now in my early 40s, I can code in some 20 different programming languages, which means, you know what that means, right? I'll never be unemployed. So I'm thankful for that. So similarly, the more things you learn, the more your companies want you, people want you, friends want you, clients want you, opportunities will always be there for you. So there you go, my dear students. I think that is the clock there. I have 4 more minutes. If there are any questions, Professor, I would like to take it. Otherwise, I'm all set, sir. So that is what I would like to, yeah.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Bakahali Radhakrishnan Vijayasimha. Called
it's a long name, Professor.
I love it. I love it. Again, your presentation has proved phenomenal, exceptional, enlightening, everything on the positive end. I don't want to make more comments because I personally am thoroughly pleased, delighted, happy with everything you've done. That's indeed the art of a professional teacher in the world of technology, of course. And we all thank you very much, Jay. Now, time for questions, ladies and gentlemen. If you want Professor Jay to remove the presentation so that I can eventually see and that is up, we are ready for the questions. So let me start with one of my own, if you don't mind, Jay. I do understand generative art with P5GS, and I do understand how you explained very clearly, powerfully, how the combination of coding, mathematics, and creativity can be sure assets to work and be successful in the field of generative art. But my question is, how can this be related to, let's say, the development of apps for the phones, for example? You know, nowadays apps are so popular, and I do understand that some level of coding is also involved. But tell me something about how this is related to generative art. Maybe
All
with
right.
the library of P5JS.
So, Professor, are you asking about how this is applied in, say, web development, or are you asking?
Yes, how this is related to the development of apps, you know,
Right,
applications
right, right.
for
So,
cell
Professor, here
phones.
ultimately, this primarily works on some specific sections of industry only.
Okay, okay.
So let's say you are building a website for a creative agency, like a marketing agency or an advertising agency or something. Now, you may have seen some websites. When you visit the website, suddenly the mouse becomes like a flower and everything is floating around. Things are changing randomly, transitioning, and so on and so forth. So those kind of creative industries, Professor, they don't want just a basic website that just says, hey, welcome to our website, click there, click here, contact us. Those guys, what they want is, when you click on contact us, they want the entire website to change, and maybe they show like a lot of phones falling up and down and eventually arranging themselves like a phone number or an email address, Professor. So those kind of creative customers or businesses, they use libraries like this. So it is specifically targeted for those people only. For example, like you're talking to me right now. So suppose I'm talking to you. I want to make sure that people can see properly. Then I go ahead and make sure I get this tablet and I position it right there. So this only works for this scenario. But if I was teaching like mathematics or something, I would have a wider camera which is showing the entire whiteboard behind me. So for specific scenarios only, this P5JS thing is useful, Professor. For everything else, I have to be honest, it's not really applicable. So it's a very niche kind of thing. So it's not for everyone, but it is useful for those who want it. So that is where it works, Professor. I don't know if I answered your question, sir. I hope.
Oh yes, you did very well.
And also, guys, during the whole mute fiasco in the beginning, I kind of disabled the chat, so you should be able to chat right now. Sorry about that.
All right.
If anyone has any questions, you should be able to type it right now or raise your hand and stuff like that.
Okay. You can hear that, ladies and gentlemen. You simply need to raise your hand. It doesn't have to be done physically, but through the application, the Zoom application in front of you, going to the bottom horizontal menu at the bottom, you can see the icon that says reactions. That's where you can show us that you want to ask a question or make a comment. Pretty much like John Winfred Balso wants to do it at this time. So we're going to him immediately.
Yes, thank you, Professor. My reaction was, in fact, in the first place, I find the presentation very, very interesting. Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can. Go ahead, please. John, go ahead.
Yes, I find the presentation by Vijay very, very interesting. And so I'll put down the links and I'm going to explore them and see what I can also get out of them. But at a certain
John, and that link, on GitHub, I mentioned this in every class now. If you have any questions like after the workshop and something, please remember that I have an open community for students. I'm just going to show it again on the screen. If you go here to front end for students, I have a discussions community. You can see here, students all over the world ask lots of questions. So please feel free to visit.
Yeah, thank you very much. And at a certain point in time, we're asking what art installations were. So I wanted to offer some insight into what art installations are.
Yes, 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 please.
Yeah. So I would want to say that art installations are generally artworks, or basically exhibitions of drawings or photographs or portraits or creative art objects, which are periodically mounted as a project at, let's say, a certain museum or a certain open space or specific space for people to come and view and interact with the work of the artist.
Exactly.
Yes, and I find that they are not so much. They are not so permanent. It is done as an exhibition for a certain period of time, then it is closed. So that's the insight I have to offer about art installations. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. I guess that is why it's called an installation, because they install it and then remove it like a circus.
After some time, it is removed. Yes.
Excellent, excellent, awesome,
yes.
awesome. Okay, guys, any other questions? Let me know, please.
And I realize that even the photographs that we take with our phone cameras these days, if somebody is able to one day put all those things together, preserve them, and get them printed and mounted somewhere, that can also be an occasion for art installation, for people to come and appreciate how you have used your Android phone and why you had your Android phone moving about, the things you observed, and how you want to share them with the world. That can also be a form of art installation.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agree, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah. So I'll be visiting your sites. I visited the sites.
Thank you guys, thank you, yes.
That was a very, very interesting addendum from John Winfred Basso on the topic being discussed today.
Yes.
Let me put the word discussed in quotes, because we are not discussing, we are receiving essential, fundamental information from our presenter, Jay, a true expert in the field. So we don't have any more questions at this time, but I really appreciate, Jay, that you have put yourself, you have made yourself available to all of us through your GitHub account, your website, so we could go there anytime and ask questions. I'm still wondering where you find the time, really, where you find that passion, where you find that courtesy to be available to the whole.
You're too kind, Professor, as always. You're too kind, sir, with your words.
It's not a matter of kindness on my end, but it is the truth, Jay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I am humbled. I am humbled.
Very happy with everything that you've done for us, for Atlantic International University, for each one of us. And we will definitely take full advantage of your offer and eventually contact you on this topic. Thank you very, very much. And I would like you to have the last concluding remarks to this.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Guys, so as you can see on the screen right now, so any of you who want to get in touch with me or ask questions and stuff like that, I have a community and everything, but still, if you want to know what I do on social media, just Google my name and follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Insta, YouTube, whatever you're using. I'm everywhere. So just follow me wherever you want. Just Google my name. You'll find me, blogs, podcasts. I do everything. I have a chill life. So thank you again, guys. And thanks again to AIU for giving me another option to talk about stuff I love. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much again. It's
you very much.
A blessing to me. It's a blessing to everyone in our list of participants today. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you as well for having been part of this session of Atlantic International University and Professor Bakahali Radhakrishnan Vijayasimha or Jay. Thank you very much, Jay, and be blessed.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. You can see me.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.